Good afternoon, 49er faithful. Thank you for your patience as we come on a few minutes late because we were talking 49ers football over on Grant's channel. And we had to make sure that we covered every topic, that we hit everything that we planned to get through. And therefore, we're a couple of minutes coming in here. You know me, I got to go get a fresh glass of water because I keep going, and I got to make sure that the voice is covered. But I'm glad to see that people have already begun arriving. Absolutely. EMA Beats is here in the house. I love it. We got Nick already in the chat. Absolutely. Mocha Frost is here. Love it. Gonna get to these comments. Kid Low, see you in there. But wanted to get through a couple of topics before we get going. So welcome to the live stream. Welcome to my show. If you were with me, you saw some of the topics that we just covered over on Grant Cohn's channel, attempting to walk through the 49ers' path to the playoffs, how we can stay optimistic about their chances in making it to that vaunted 7th seed, and what it may take to get some of these wins. Let's start with some positive news that, let's face it, folks, Kyler Murray has been out for a while. Vegas knows these things. As soon as that line shifted, as soon as it became a toss-up game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals, you knew that Kyler Murray was going to be out. As big of a business as the NFL is, as much revenue as the NFL brings in, gambling dwarfs that by 10x. The revenue in 2020 for the NFL, $12 billion, $131 billion for gambling. So yeah, they know what they're talking about. And when they change a line like that, I think they probably have some inside information from somebody where they can definitively say, yes, in fact, Kyler Murray will be out on Sunday. That gives the 49ers a huge advantage. Kyler Murray moves the launch point constantly. Kyler Murray is a legit threat. He is the engine that makes that air raid offense so explosive. Because not only do you have 6 very viable pass catchers for the Arizona Cardinals, you know, they traded for Zach Ertz to replace Max Williams when he was out. So they still have 4 wide receivers, the tight end, and the running back, all catching significant numbers of catches on a regular basis, being able to spread the ball around. But all of that is central to Kyler Murray being successful behind center. And it's his ability to move the launch point, to get outside the pocket, to extend plays, to escape with his legs. All of these things create greater stress on defenses and then allow the Cardinals to do what they've been doing to this point, which is average 31 points on the season, offensively speaking. Without Kyler in there, it's fair to wonder if that offense will have any level of that same success. Whether Colt McCoy is capable of actually putting that together for them. So let's answer the question, is Colt McCoy a scrub? A scrub, technically speaking, is a guy that can't get no love from the ladies of TLC. That's the technical definition of a scrub, hanging out the passenger side of their best friend's ride, trying to holler at the ladies of TLC. I don't think Colt McCoy fits that definition, technically, nor the less technical definition of a NFL scrub, which is just your average NFL player, below average NFL player. He's certainly not going to give you the same challenges that Kyler Murray does. He's a significant drop-off, but if you look at him as simply a backup quarterback, you wonder, is he a solid backup? So I went back and looked through the statistics on Colt McCoy, and we'll say first and foremost, nobody takes sacks quite like Colt McCoy. On 989 career pass attempts, he's taken 94 sacks. That's like getting sacked on 1 out of every 10 dropbacks. You would think it could be another 4+ sack game for the San Francisco 49ers defense, right? We had 4 sacks against Chicago. You would think that this sets up nicely to have a bunch of sacks against Colt McCoy as well. Obviously, 49ers fans probably have a warm remembrance of Colt McCoy's 2013 season, where he was with the San Francisco 49ers, and he was perfect that year, 1-for-1 passing for 13 yards. But he did have a rough 4.1 QBR that year for the 49ers, all because he had 6 kneel downs in victories, 6 kneel downs for -6 yards. I think that hurt his QBR. Otherwise, the stellar 1-for-1 passing for 13 yards, a memory of him in his 2013 season with the 49ers should be a flawless one. But seriously, his career completion percentage hovers just north of 60%. It's a 6.5 yard average, and therefore you're looking at much more of a game manager type of quarterback, a quarterback that is not mobile, who does take a lot of sacks, who throws shorter passes primarily to lead to that 6.5 yard average, and averages a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And that's not taking into account his fumbles. 30 touchdowns, 28 career interceptions, about a 1-to-1 ratio there. And as you might guess, someone who has taken almost 100 sacks in his day, 15% of the time when he's getting sacked, he's coughing up the ball as well. So 15 fumbles. Can the 49ers defense actually force those fumbles? The sack fumble is such a brutal change. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, UFC. Yes, Murray out. That is cool. That is cool indeed. Nick, I'm with you here. Absolutely. The amount of sacks Bosa may have, a fantastic game. If you're Nick Bosa and you're going for that single season sack record, you've got to have those games where you just go off. The type of Chandler Jones 5 sacks in a single game type of game in order to balance out over the length of the season and get to that 22, 23 sack number. This sets up to be a Arizona offensive line that has struggled at times, and a quarterback who is just primed to actually take these sacks. That is a fantastic setup. Let's hope that it ends up materializing into a sack type of game for the 49ers, a violent sack-filled game for the 49ers. Gotta love it. Got to love it. All right, let's look at whether the 49ers win or lose on Sunday. What if they win? Let's play it out. 49ers win against the Cardinals. There will be a lot of people who come in and immediately say that it doesn't count for some reason, that the Cardinals were down. Kyler Murray, AJ Green is out. DeAndre Hopkins may not play. Chase Edmonds is dinged up. JJ Watt is out. All of these things combine for people to be able to spin the narrative of, yeah, you know what? It is something that the 49ers should have won, and they won it. So they've still only beaten bad teams. They're still only at 4-4. So I don't think that if the 49ers win, it changes the national media narrative too much. I think people will be less down on the 49ers. There will be less bashing the 49ers, fewer people saying, well, the 49ers are vastly underperforming. But I don't know that it changes anyone's minds, in particular the people that remain skeptical. It will give hope to those of us that still held on to a sliver of hope going into this game. For those of us like myself that remained optimistic that the 49ers could salvage this season, it sets up to be a game that, if they win, furthers that narrative. But if they lose, it could be a very, very dark week. It could revert a bit to what we saw when the 49ers were in the midst of their 4-game losing streak. That 4-game losing streak was so close in 49ers fans' memories that it will be revisited, and revisited with a passion, if the 49ers were to lose a game that they should win, a game in which the Arizona Cardinals are absolutely banged up. They are missing key pieces to their offense, key pieces to their defense. It would put the 49ers at 3-5, 2 games away from 500, going on to play the Rams the next week. again, in a game that people expect them to win. So this sets up for almost a lose-lose scenario for the 49ers this weekend. And that doesn't have me feeling fantastic. And the lose-lose scenario is that if they win, people won't give them credit for it. But if they lose, people will pile on them relentlessly. The hope is that the 49ers can continue where they left off against Chicago, continue putting up significant positive momentum one play after another, and avoid those costly mistakes that have been so emblematic of this 2021 49ers team. And I agree with Jesse in the sentiment here that, yes, the real challenge does lie ahead in the game against the Rams. That is absolutely the truth. Also want to take a moment to say thank you to 49ers First Takes. Aaron, what's going on, man? I appreciate you throwing out the drop a like and subscribe if you do not already. I greatly appreciate anybody, if you like the content, showing that appreciation by clicking the subscribe button and clicking the like button. It helps me amplify my voice to the people out there. And that is absolutely what I'm looking to do, because I am passionate about talking 49ers, as you may be able to tell, 49er faithful. So let's go a little bit further down that somewhat dark path. And I'm not predicting this. I am not going negative here. Let me clarify that first. I am not predicting the 49ers to lose against the Cardinals. I am predicting the 49ers to win. I have them winning by 8 if Kyler Murray doesn't play. I have them winning by 4 even if Kyler Murray were to, pull a miracle and start, because I do think he would be a shell of his former self. And if he's not quite as mobile, the height does come into play and you can box him in within the pocket. But let's explore a hypothetical here and say, what if the 49ers lose the next 2? Is that it? If we drop the game against Arizona, it would be demoralizing. 49ers fans would be devastated. The national media would be all over them. The beat writers, Matt Mayoko has already said the 49ers are a bad team. And he has stated that he's not going to reverse position on that until the 49ers get back to 500. And if they lose against Arizona, they're now 2 games away from getting to 500. Therefore, you have to think he would stay with that narrative of the 49ers being a bad team. More people would pile on to that narrative of being that bad team. And then you would ask, can they bounce back against a Rams team that to this point is extremely, extremely good? Now, I'm with you. This is a hypothetical. Harold, I'm with you. Harold says, 1 week at a time, Rob. The 49ers will win this week. I agree, Harold. 49ers have to focus 1 week at a time. That's absolutely true. We're going with the hypothetical because we aren't the 49ers, so we can play it out. If they did drop the game to Arizona some way, somehow, if they did drop the game to LA, would it be time to pull the ripcord on the season? And my answer there in this hypothetical that I don't think is going to happen is, I think so. I think you'd have to start shifting to the long-term planning. At some point, you have to shift from what are we doing this year to how are we getting better next year. And if you wait until you're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, that will happen so late in the season now with this new format, with the 7th wild card, that you can do real damage to a team the following season. You can spend money that you shouldn't spend chasing 2021. You can give valuable practice reps to, let's say, Jimmy Garoppolo instead of an up-and-coming Trey Lance, again, in pursuit of 2021. So I do think at some point prior to being eliminated mathematically that the 49ers would need to take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, listen, we still have to play Seattle, LA again, the Titans, the Vikings, the Bengals. All of those are going to be tough matchups. All of those are good teams, even if they are incomplete teams. You have to wonder if at some point the 49ers would have to pull that ripcord. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Nick pointing out, yes, indeed. You can only play the teams that are placed in front of you. Nobody is giving the 49ers many excuses when they get beat by teams because they're missing a key piece or something falls apart on them. It's just chalked up as a loss. That is the case in the NFL. You've got to beat the teams that are on the schedule. You have got to beat up on teams that are beat up. You got to take advantage of people who have injured rosters. You got to take advantage of bad teams. You have to stack the wins. And in order to do that, you got to beat the teams that are placed in front of you. So this Arizona Cardinals team, yes, it is beat up, but you got to beat them anyway. No excuses. You can't take your foot off of the accelerator because this team is still potent. They still have the third best overall defense, right? Still have that elite defense, even without J.J. Watt. Going to be tough. And I like the optimism the following week. I'll be using this as well. We will fight to the death against the Rams 300 Spartan style. LOL. Absolutely. All right, Francisco comes in with a question before we get to the next topic. He's saying, Rob, you think we're going to see a mix of our two QBs this weekend? I don't. I think mix is the key word there, and that's what makes me say no, I do not believe that the 49ers will have a mix of quarterbacks. I do hope and at least moderately expect the 49ers to rotate in the rookie quarterback for some snaps. I want to see critical game situations, not critical, specific game situations, such as when you're in between the 40s and you can take a shot play. So in between the 40s and you have especially if you have a short down and distance. So let's say it's second and third at your own 45. Perfect play to bring in Trey Lance. Bring him in under center, play action. The defense has to legitimately respect the play action because it's second and 3. You might run the ball. And hell, maybe the first time he's in there, you do run the ball, but that sets up the play action where he can turn around and the entire field is his oyster because he has the arm strength to hit the end zone from your own 45. I would use the wide side of the field, play action from under center, and roll him out to the wide side of the field. Cut the field in half, limit the number of players that he has to have, the number of receivers that he has to read the defense on, allows him to be outside of the pocket, allows him to use his legs, allows him to run if need be, but get him in for these types of low risk, high reward plays, build the rookie's confidence. That's what I want to see, but I don't think you will. I don't know if at any point in this season you'll see what we saw against the Raiders in the preseason, where it was truly platooning them in and out. It looked like fun. It looked like we would all enjoy seeing that. I just don't know whether you actually will. Kyle may be a little too old school to approach it in that way. AJB coming in. The Bears game kind of gave false hope. It's the Bears. It is the Bears. And I would agree that you cannot take a whole lot from that Bears game. You would have been able to take a lot from a loss. You would have been able to basically start to write off the San Francisco 49ers. But a victory there, I don't know how many questions it did answer. But it felt very much like this comment from Nick about the next 2 games. Drop the next 2 games, it's over. Time to look to the next season. Absolutely. Taking us to our next topic here, I want to get into this debate about the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. And it's around this idea of offensive execution, which seems to be the reason that's continually given for Jimmy G to stay behind the offense and to be the leader of the offense. But comparing and contrasting that to explosive plays, of which I think we all know Jimmy Garoppolo does not provide many, if any, to this 49ers offense. Trey Lance, on the other hand, may suffer in the offensive execution side of it, but offers the explosive plays, offers those big chunk plays that the 49ers can use to jump ahead in a game, a big touchdown, a big gain of 40 plus. You don't get very many of those from Jimmy unless they are yards after the catch, like the throw to Debo that was 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage that ends up going the length of the field. That has very little to do with Jimmy other than executing the play, getting the ball to the person it needed to be gotten to at the correct time, but then Debo's doing the rest on that. Whereas you know that there are shot plays you'll get from Trey that you most definitely would not get from Jimmy. And the reason I want to weigh these two is that the 49ers offense doesn't seem good enough to overcome mistakes, and they seem prone to holding penalties, false starts, these hiccups in drives, and then they're incapable of overcoming that. When they get behind and down in distance, this offense underneath Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't seem skilled enough to actually overcome that. It doesn't feel that the 49ers can overcome a 2nd and 20. An incompletion on first down, a penalty, a holding penalty on second down, feels like the drive's over. With Trey in that, I just don't know that's the case. I think you get more of the shot plays. And Greg, I'm going to put this in here because I think you're right. Stop, bro, Greg says. Kyle wants Jimmy for now. Absolutely true, as do I. The case that I'm making is you need to begin this adjustment. You need to get Trey in there for that excitement. The 49ers have such an uphill battle in the number of games that they still have to win and the level of competition that they're going to be playing against in those must-win games. I think they're going to come up against a situation where they need more than just offensive execution. And if they fail to develop the rookie in between now and when that time arrives, you'll get to that point and not be able to execute because the rookie won't have gotten additional time behind center. If you can devote some of those plays, if you can get Trey Lance in there, he's ready for those needed times where you need a spark or another situation where Jimmy is injured and you need him to step in because it's a long season. And let's be very upfront about the fact that it seems unlikely Jimmy stays healthy for the rest of the year. So simply getting that experience to the rookie for when he's needed again feels like a must at this point. Kid Low, you know how to get on the screen. Mr. Schuh, you are a legend, he says. I always enjoy the compliments and just throw them up there for a smile because it makes me feel good. But honestly, I do appreciate that when people come in and appreciate my content because I enjoy putting it out there. There is no doubt about it. I want to go back through a couple of the comments to not get too far behind so that you all are a part of the dialogue. And then I'll get back to the last couple of topics I have, one of which is the OBJ situation. So I'll wait to put up any of the comments specific to OBJ on that one because I am going to go into it. Hopefully I can scroll back through and put up some of your comments about OBJ at that time so that if it was relevant to the conversation, it will be in. All right, Rick, we're throwing this up here saying, we're going to get the W this Sunday. Both Jimmy and Trey are getting a rushing touchdown. Calling it right now. Look at that. When you see this weekend that both Jimmy and Trey get in the end zone using their legs, Rick called it here first. You heard it here first, 49er faithful. Harold asking about should the 49ers work out Deshaun Jackson? This is an interesting question. For those that don't know, Deshaun Jackson was waived by the Rams. Had a team, there are new rules within the NFL. Had a team claimed him off of waivers, and this is true about OBJ too, so this is relevant. It used to be that if you were a vested NFL veteran and you got cut, you were then a free agent. You could decide where you wanted to go. It was the respect that the NFL gave to veterans. Well, there was a change such that now, after the trade deadline, which has now passed, November 2nd was the trade deadline, any player, regardless of veteran status that is cut by a team, must clear waivers. So it no longer excludes NFL veterans as it used to. So Deshaun Jackson was waived, cut by the Los Angeles Rams, and he cleared waivers. No one wanted to take on the remainder of that contract. However, he is now a free agent. So to this question, should the 49ers bring him in for a workout? Because they don't need to claim him. They could bring him in for the conversation, feel him out, ask him if this is a place he wants to play. He's previously stated that he's a Long Beach native, loved coming back to LA to play for the Rams. Obviously that didn't work out. There are only a couple of California teams, right? Only 3 California teams that I could think of, the 2 in LA and the 1 remaining in San Francisco/Santa Clara. People are throwing out the Raiders as a potential fit. I could see that. But it's interesting with the 49ers because do we have a deep threat? Travis Benjamin? You could debate that. We started in one game. It didn't work out. 49ers fans weren't wild about it. I don't think he's cracked the 53-man too many times since then. So it's fair to wonder whether we need a step up at the speed wide receiver position. I just don't know whether Deshaun Jackson is a good locker room guy or not. I think that I would need to know more about him in that way if I were the San Francisco 49ers front office in order to feel good bringing him in, because he wasn't cool in LA and they're winning. San Francisco is going through some turmoil, could go through a lot more, especially if the quarterback position gets ugly. Would a player like Deshaun Jackson be a negative influence within the locker room? If he's not getting enough passes, enough receptions in LA where Matthew Stafford's chucking it around the yard, is it really going to be a factor when his quarterback is Jimmy G? Nick, I agree that it is absolutely interesting, this new waiver rule, because it's the truth for OBJ. He is going through waivers right now. Absolutely. Richard, I got to throw this up there. Yes, Grant did switch the episode name on our show on Fridays. It happens immediately following on his channel to the Schuh Show. We're working the working title. I love it because it has my name in it. And the super chat will be coming. I did hit 1,000 subscribers. I did hit the 4,000 watched hours. Just waiting on YouTube to say, all right, we'll let you monetize now that you've hit the threshold. I'm thrilled to have hit it. I couldn't have done it without all of you, and that is a fact. That is a fact. Let's keep going through the comments a little bit before we get to our last couple of topics here. Kidlo, appreciate it. You enjoy watching the show. I enjoy having you all here. All right, Mayor, I like this prediction here. I tell you now, Trey Lance will be around long after Kyle Shanahan is gone. I mean, I like the prediction in that I want Trey Lance to be around for a long time. I hope it's wrong in that I hope Kyle Shanahan gets his leadership woes figured out, becomes the head coach that he seems to be as an offensive play designer, and really grows into himself. I don't know that will happen, and if it doesn't, I think you're right that you probably will see Trey Lance here for much longer because the 49ers seem committed to the young gentleman with what they gave up to get him. That is for sure. A question about the difference between Jimmy and Trey comes from Harold asking, why doesn't Kyle call the same easy plays for Trey? It feels like Kyle puts Trey in a position to lose. I am absolutely arguing for some of those easier plays in drives to be given to Trey. You've got to build the rookie's confidence. Pynor believes that is exactly correct. He's on board with Harold as well. I am too. You've got to give those quick wins to the rookie. You've seen enough from Jimmy to understand that, yes, he plays better when he's confident, and the confidence seems to be fleeting. I don't know that you can point to, well, Jimmy's going to really turn it around. As much as I enjoy rooting for whoever's behind center, as much as I'm willing to get behind Jimmy G as our starting quarterback because he's been named the starter, I am frustrated. I need to see positive signs in the correct direction. And to me, that's the relationship between Kyle and Trey. That's the most important thing, even as we're attempting to win all of these games. So I'm not saying take the ball out of Jimmy's hands too much, especially if we're winning, but work it in there strategically. Very important to the development of this team. Greg comes back in and asks, do you think Kyle wants Trey to sit and watch them learn, then it's his turn? I do think that Kyle is old school in that approach, that you learn by watching, that you can pick things up on the bench. And there's some validity to that. In that, let's take an everyday life example. Everyone on this show that's watching right now that sees this video has started a new job, has gone to a new school, has moved houses, has gotten in a new relationship. All these things, all these major life changes are very stressful. And when they're new, are hard, right? A new job, even if a task is something that you're used to doing on a regular basis, it becomes uncomfortable in a new environment. So there's something to allowing him to just get used to the NFL, allowing him to just get used to being in the 49ers locker room. There's something to that, but he's not going to truly progress within the offense unless you get him in there. So to me, yes, you can sit and learn, but at some point you've reached the point of no return and you're not getting significant returns from sitting at some point. I don't think you learn more in year 2 sitting than you do in year 1 or more in year 3. I don't think Rodgers sitting for, what did he sit for, 3 3 years before he got in. I'm sure he could have come in year 2 and had success. Probably could have come in year 1. You never know what factors went into his success. But what I'm saying is I think that you max out what you can get from sitting at some point. Pinor coming in with the comment on OBJ, feeling that he's a waste of time, but filler is needed for watch hours. I appreciate that, Pinor. No, I think that the 49ers will place a waiver claim on OBJ, and I'll get into that in just a minute. I'll be surprised if they don't. And I'd be interested to know why you think that they wouldn't, why the 49ers would pass on that. I get it if it were a locker room concern. I think that's where my biggest fears come in. All right, Kid Low coming in with a comment about Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson is my favorite player. He's everything you want in a player. He's so damn solid. I hope he stays healthy for another contract. I do too. You hate seeing a guy on a contract year go down to injury when he had flashed so much promise and had come in showing that he could be a fit within this system, that he could be the thunder to the thunder and lightning. And you still hope that that's the role he can fill on Sundays, with Elijah Mitchell clearly becoming that thunder, that lightning back. We still need someone in the Tevin Coleman tenderizer role, and maybe that's Jeff Wilson Jr. It doesn't seem that they're trusting Trey Sermon. A lot of people have thrown out the hypothetical that it will be you wait until you make the switch to Trey, and then you make the switch to Trey Sermon as well, that Trey and Trey are a package deal, and that Aaron Banks might be a part of that package deal as well. But I think you've got to be able to play them and get value from them even when Jimmy's starting, because I think the likelihood is Jimmy starts the remainder of the season unless he's injured. That seems to be the course of action that we are on. Manikov coming in with some doubt here, talking about we are not playing the Bad News Bears this weekend. Do not underestimate an injured Cards team. What I will say about that is if the 49ers themselves underestimate the Cardinals, they will lose. I will put that out there. I don't think they're going to underestimate the Cardinals. I think that they will come into this fired up. It's a division game. Division games are always close. Teams are not always. Teams are typically very passionate about playing within the division. It typically doesn't take too much to get fired up for those types of games for sure. Getting back to the Deshaun Jackson comment topic, just before we close that out and move on to the next topic, Manikov comes back in. Deshaun Jackson would be great for Trey, not Jimmy. I agree with that he's a better fit if you're going to switch to the rookie, because I'm just not so sure that Jimmy is going to push the ball downfield to him. And if he doesn't, does Deshaun Jackson become irritated with Jimmy? It seems to be that's what slightly diva wide receivers are prone to do. You're not getting me the ball, I'm going to be upset about that. And like I said, that's one of the same qualms I have about OBJ. And we'll hit that in just a minute, but Pinor has some thoughts on OBJ. I'm going to get it in here just to make sure. It's a long comment, so I had to read it first. OBJ already messed up his production to compete against the greats for career stats. He has money. I assume he wants to be a winner. Bucks or Rams is the place for him. I agree, but it's not his choice. He is going through waivers at this point. The Detroit Lions could place a claim on Odell Beckham Jr. He may go from the Browns to the Lions. And if he doesn't like that, he has the option to sit out and not get paid or retire. But because of this rule change, it is indeed not possible for OBJ to choose where he goes. Teams will be hesitant because he's shown a willingness to blow it up. He's shown a willingness to blow up a locker room. So I think if you're the Lions, you should think twice about placing a claim on Odell Beckham Jr. I think there are a lot of teams that should think twice about placing a claim, because I think he can blow up a locker room and may get back in. Harold, just to point this out, looks like Super Chat's turned off. I just hit the marker with YouTube, so I've got to go through their approval process to get the Super Chats turned on, but never you fear. I am working on that, because you know this guy wants to monetize. That is for sure. AJB in here. 49ers winning against AZ is not a lock. We're playing at Levi's. We've really struggled. We have really struggled at Levi's. We haven't won there in over a year. The last time we won there was against the Rams in mid-October of last year. Over a year. Now, We won some home games when home, quote unquote, was Arizona, but not Levi's. And the 49ers need that. They need a pick-me-up. They need to establish that we have some home field advantage. You cannot lose consistently at home. It demoralizes your fan base. It demoralizes your players. They have to turn this around. Very, very important. Manikoff still running the one-man campaign for my mayoral candidacy here in the city of Portland, Oregon. He is voting for me for mayor of Portland. Write-in candidate, as I've yet to qualify for it. Appreciate it, Manikoff. Brandon coming in with more support. Go, Rob. Thank you for showing up, Brandon. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Manikoff with a question that I like. How can the Niners have an offense with Debo and Mitchell hurt? I think both of these incidents, both of these players, it's more of a pain tolerance issue. With Debo, I could be mistaken about that, but I believe we're still talking about the calf contusion, which is typically used to describe a bruise as opposed to a calf pull, which people are very, very hesitant about because calf pulls are oftentimes a precursor to bigger lower leg injuries. And so I would be concerned if that were the case. I think it is still a carryover from the calf contusion that he described as having been kicked in the back of the leg. I believe that makes it more of an issue of playing through pain. I have no question about Debo's ability to play through pain. None. Elijah Mitchell played through the shoulder injury, even though they had to limit his number of touches. I also do not question Elijah Mitchell's ability to play through pain. Both of those guys, mad respect. I think both will be a go. My fantasy football teams will be in disarray if they're both out. But the 49ers could be in disarray as well. And therefore, I think that both play. I think you're looking at a situation where both play. Greg, got to throw it up there. He appreciates the take. I enjoy the back and forth, so I appreciate you. I appreciate you throwing out the original take that allowed me to respond to it. Getting back into some of my takes before we get back to your comments, I asked the question, what difference would D-Hop make? This one seems to be more of a question. I think Kyler Murray's out. I think that's decided. But I do believe it's up in the air if DeAndre Hopkins can play on Sunday. AJ Green has been listed as out. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins both still listed as questionable. But I do not believe that Kyler Murray is going to play, and I believe that because of what I previously stated about Vegas making it very clear that it's now a toss-up in that game, and I think Vegas has inside information there. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins playing would influence the line there, so I think that's still up for question. What will his impact be for the Cardinals offense? First of all, the air raid offense, part of the beauty of it is it's not reliant on any one player. There are 6 players that are almost on pace for phenomenal seasons. 5 of those 6, right? If Max Williams hadn't gotten hurt, all 6 of those would be hovering around 30 receptions at this point. 6 frickin' players with almost 30 receptions. Because you lost Max Williams and brought in Zach Ertz, I think Ertz only has 10 targets or somewhere around there so far. I think he's at 7 receptions. But if you combine his and Max Williams, the tight end position, into one, you're looking at basically 6 receiving threats that are near 30 receptions at this point in the season. That is a wildly balanced attack. Compare that to the San Francisco 49ers, where their offense is 2 players, Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. If D-Hop is out, what does it do? It means that we don't have someone that we have to double team on every play. DeAndre Hopkins needs to be double teamed, needs to have multiple sets of eyes on him every play. I think that it dictates what you're going to do with your safeties. It dictates the coverages that you can be in. It dictates the number of blitzes you can run. It dictates how many pass rushers can be coming on any given play. And I do think that it forces you more into rushing 4 and playing more coverage to cover all of those weapons. D-Hop down, AJ Green out. Now you're down to 4 of those weapons. That's a bit more manageable. That allows you to double team some guys that a double team could shut them down. D-Hop is still getting 100 yards, even if you're doubling him all game. The 49ers have shown, and Harold is correct in putting this in here, D-Hop is dangerous. He destroys the San Francisco 49ers when he wants to. When they focus on getting him the ball, it's basically impossible to stop. but they're still susceptible. Whether he plays or not, it doesn't change that this matchup should favor the San Francisco 49ers. It gives them one fewer options to throw the ball to. It takes away their most dangerous player. It allows them to double other players. It allows them to play more single coverage. It allows them to play zone and not have to focus multiple sets of eyes on DeAndre Hopkins. And let's be honest, that this game sets up nicely for the 49ers in other ways. The 49ers are going to be looking to run the ball all over Arizona. Arizona is still not great at stopping the run. The first time we played them, they were giving up 5.4 yards per carry. They've now gotten that down to 4.9, but that is still not pretty. So the San Francisco 49ers should be able to keep the Arizona offense off of the field and hopefully not allow them to have that sort of electric game that this offense has had to this point in the year. They are outscoring opponents 31-17. You have to think Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins out, that point total comes down, and the 49ers, with the ability to run the ball, should be able to win the time of possession, should be able to keep this a lower scoring game and give themselves a healthy chance at winning it. I think it works out nicely for the 49ers and certainly works out much, much nicer if, in fact, DeAndre Hopkins isn't playing. Harold correctly calling out, yes, division games are always a dogfight. Honestly, even when you have a highly uncompetitive team playing against another in a division, they're typically tight. AJB calling out Don Burr, the legendary Lions fan, would love it if the Lions put in that claim for OBJ. It would, in fact, be terrible for OBJ if the Lions put in that claim. I can't imagine. I can't imagine a unsuccessful organization thinking to themselves, let's just bring in OBJ and see what happens. I think he'll be fine coming in here. I don't think he'll be at all a problem within the locker room. I don't think that when he struggles to get targets that it will be a disaster at all. We shall see. I think that will give even the 49ers pause at this point with the fact that we are rolling with Jimmy Garoppolo for what it seems like is the rest of the season. Greg asking an interesting question. Why do you think we are struggling at Levi's? I do think there's something to it not being an elite home field advantage. I do think that Levi's sets up in a way to where 49ers fans are not in the stadium early. So a lot of stadiums fill up early. You look at kickoff, look in the stands. Are there empty seats? A good stadium fills up before the game starts because people want to be in there to cheer on the fans. And let's be honest, with the product on the field, 49ers fans at times have felt a bit more passionate about tailgating than about getting in there. Also, half of the stadium for the early half of the season is baking in the sun, and it's not fun to go sit in that half of the stadium early in the game and just melt and get permanently attached to your seat. I have sat on that 50-yard line side in a early, I want to say it was a September game a couple years back, maybe 2018 against the Cowboys. It was nasty. I mean, I was sweating. I was uncomfortable. I was getting sunburned. It was just, so that's tough. So that factors into it. I also believe that, the legend builds upon itself, that the 49ers just haven't been a consistent football team, and therefore it's not surprising that they have struggled at home as well. When you look back to 2019, we had a real legit home field advantage. I was there for all of those, both of those playoff games, and it was electric. We can get back there. Levi's can provide home field advantage. It just doesn't to this point. Chester Gray coming in, a team that isn't a contender should not claim OBJ. That includes us. It's fair. When you look at the teams before us, I'm going to get into the should we place a waiver claim on OBJ. There are a lot of teams that are not in contention. We'll get through a couple more comments and then get to that OBJ topic. Got to put up the compliment. Loving the beard. Why, thank you. Poop Saget's. That is. Is that a reference to Bob Saget there? Anyway, I love the compliment regardless of the handle there, Poop Saget's. Harold coming back in. Imagine going from the Browns to the Lions. Wow. OBJ would be livid. Livid, wouldn't he? Wouldn't he? Jamie Bryant coming in. What's up, Jamie? I saw you over on Grant's channel. I saw that. I think any big receiver we get, Jimmy going to create more interceptions because he can't throw the ball deep. It's fair. Would Jimmy attempt to force the ball to a big name wide receiver if we brought him in? If we brought in Odell Beckham Jr., would he fall victim to that, pressure to start forcing the ball to Odell Beckham Jr.? You saw it with Baker Mayfield sometimes. The bad games for Baker when they were both playing came when he tried to force the ball to Odell Beckham Jr., when he wasn't taking what the defense was giving him, when he thought, Odell is so talented and he's going to be upset if I don't get him the ball. Yeah, that to me is a recipe for disaster. And it seems as if it would set up to play out that way with Jimmy Garoppolo as well at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Manikov coming in with a question. Rob, why did the Cards pick up AJ Green and OBJ is the same type of diva? The same for the Bucks with Antonio Brown. Well, for the Bucks, that worked out. The Cards definitely brought on AJ Green. I don't know that I would put him in that same level. You could disagree with me there, but AJ Green seems to be a little more quiet and reserved as opposed to being outspoken. But you could say that, yes, he was discontented in his final years with the Bengals and did work to force his way out of that situation. So some similarities there. I do think that OBJ has really, in two scenarios now, forced his way out. And Antonio Brown obviously hasn't seemed to have been able to play or act sane on any team that doesn't have Tom Brady on it since he left Pittsburgh. Although you could point to some other things being a concern in Oakland. Now, looking back, hindsight's 2020. So I think there are elements of these things working out in other places. What you see there, though, is like with Tampa Bay, Tom Brady's personality is able to balance out Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown respects Tom Brady to the point where he's not willing to be a distraction for Tom because he admires what Tom brings to the table as a professional. He looks up to him, I believe, as a type of mentor, has a close friendship with Tom. And that dynamic works for them. I don't think that Jimmy's going to be that type of mentor to an incoming NFL diva. And then I don't want our young rookie quarterback to be in any way ruined by that process. All right, Charlie asking the question, do you think signing OBJ is a good idea? So let's get into that topic, get back over to the final banner of previously thought up topics by yours truly, Rob Schuh. And so, yes, will the 49ers place a waiver claim? So let's clear that up right now. The question was, will they sign OBJ? The rule change in the NFL places it such that now we are in a waiver claim situation. As soon as the transaction wire is official, we've gotten the notice from Cleveland. So whether it's been submitted to the league office or not, that notification that was put out, a statement by the Browns organization, it's clear that OBJ it's a technicality if he's not been cut or waived at this point. But the new rules state that even though he's a vested NFL veteran, he will need to clear waivers, which means in reverse order based on the record of NFL teams, they will be able to submit claims. So the worst teams in the NFL have the highest priority of claiming Odell Beckham Jr. The 49ers sit at 12th on that list. So 11 other teams would need to pass on submitting a claim for Odell Beckham Jr. in order for him to make it to the San Francisco 49ers. There was a reworking of his deal, apparently, that made it a lot more palatable for the Browns to let him go, to move some dead money around, and would make it easier for a team to claim him because the Browns are incentivized to have another NFL team claim him. As soon as he is claimed by an NFL team, his remaining salary comes off of their books. His remaining salary for this year, there's still a lot of dead money there, but it helps them out financially. If he clears waivers, then less money comes off the books because then it's a balancing act of how much he gets paid on a fresh contract. As of right now, teams place a claim, they take on whatever this newly negotiated contract is that he just hammered out today, as I understand it. It was, prior to that renegotiation, roughly $8 million remaining on his contract. He had already been paid upwards of $9 million, still $8 million remaining on this season. If the Niners were to need to clear space for $8 million, that would be a real problem. 49ers only have $3.5 million of cap space remaining, according to overthecap.com. That would not be enough to absorb OBJ. I looked through the number of contracts that you could shift around, restructure. There are not many choices for the 49ers. It comes down to basically Arik Armstead, Laken Tomlinson, and Jimmy G. But let's be real, I'm not counting that one. The 49ers are not committing to Jimmy beyond this year, so they're not going to renegotiate that contract with him. So that leaves you with two viable contracts to come up with enough money to claim OBJ. Arik Armstead, which is already a heavily backloaded contract, and Laken Tomlinson, who, because he's not been re-signed to this point, it indicates to me that they are probably not going to re-sign him. So that would be my take on it. But now that it's been redone, it could take less cap space to bring OBJ in. It just becomes a question of who places the waiver claim. So who are the teams that could place that waiver claim above the San Francisco 49ers? Well, it is the Detroit Lions sitting in last place. Could they use the help? Sure. Would OBJ be happy there? I doubt it. Is that the kind of character that Dan Campbell feels like he would bring in? I'm not so sure. Miami Dolphins, again, I think they have to write themselves off in that they're attempting to rebuild correctly. You can't bring in someone who could potentially become a source of unrest for the team. I would say the same thing for the Texans, although they could use the PR bump. You got to look at some of these teams that are lower on. That could be the reasoning. You could sell tickets by acquiring OBJ. You put in a waiver claim for OBJ, next year's season ticket sales might go up. I could see that as the next team on the list, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hey, we've got a rookie quarterback, number 1 overall draft pick in Trevor Lawrence. We've got a bright future ahead of us. We're going to bring in Odell Beckham Jr. And yeah, we may not be competing this year, but we're building a team for the future, and Odell is a big part of that, gives us an elite weapon for the rookie to throw to. You could see them trying to sell their fan base on that. That could be something that they attempt to convince everyone that, that's going to be the situation. Washington football team, I don't see them laying a claim. The Jets with Saleh, I think he's trying to build the right way. The Giants certainly not going to try and bring him back. A couple of interesting ones for me, really just one that I've set my sight on. The next three are Seattle, Philly, and Chicago. Could they? Yeah, they could. Chicago, I'm writing that off. They can't even get the ball to Allen Robinson. Philly, maybe, but Seattle. I could see Seattle putting in a claim. I could absolutely see Seattle putting in the claim. Look at this. Nick pointing out some facts for us. This is important. OBJ will be $7.25 million against the cap remaining. If that is updated info based on the renegotiation that occurred today, that could be the tough number to hit because the San Francisco 49ers are $4 million away from hitting that and would need to restructure one of two deals. Arik Armstead, which I don't think many fans would be excited about, or Laken Tomlinson, which it doesn't seem the team is committed to at this point. So I could see the Seattle Seahawks have, oh, look, our Mob Nation is with me on this one. Here we go. Our Mob Nation. Seahawks have the claim ahead of us. OBJ will not come to the Niners because we simply don't have the money for him. So the second part of that, I disagree. You could clear up the cap space. It's a question of whether you want to. The 49ers have enough cash in pocket to get these things done. All you have to do is convert a player's current year salary to a bonus. You need to have the millions of dollars to do that because you got to pay him whatever it is, $6 million right now. You got to cut him a check for $6 million, but then that gets spread out over the remaining years of the contract. The 49ers could accomplish that. The question is, will they, or will another team ahead of them? Seattle's shown a willingness to chase some of these wide receivers. Josh Gordon immediately comes to mind. That, to me, is the biggest question mark. Will the Seattle Seahawks claim OBJ? It would be a heartbreaker if they did, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? I would hate to see, you hate to see it when somebody you think could make a difference for your team ends up on a hated rival. A hated rival. All right, back to the comments. All right, Manikov, an ongoing dialogue here. He and I like to bicker a little bit. Manikov saying, Rob, I'm not saying the Niners are not going to win, and I am 50-50, but it can go either way in my real opinion, even though my humor is Cards 35, Niners 17. The humor, gets me to smile. It does. But yeah, I think a toss-up game is a pretty accurate assessment going up against the Cardinals. Look at Vegas. They've got them at pretty much a toss-up game. Kidlow coming in with some insight on the new trade acquisition, Charles Omenihu. That's the way I'm pronouncing it. I think it might be Omanahu. I need to look into the phonetic pronunciation, the phonetic spelling of Omanahu. That sounds a little more realistic, Omanahu. All right, Kidlow says, I watched tape of Charles Omanahu, and he looks good, young, and he's speedy for a big guy. He will be Kerry Hyder 2.0. I like the optimism. I saw the length. Dude, look at the guy's freaking arms. He's like a condor. It's how Matt Barrows used to describe Aldon Smith, and I'm not saying that there's any hint of Aldon Smith to Charles Omanahu, but the length, the ability to bend, that is a core skill set, a core trait to bring to this wide nine concept. And he could be a really good fit. Chris Kocurek is going to be able to coach him up. Coach him up. Rick Muniz coming in. Kittle is back. That's why I got on the Kittle jersey today. Don't worry, I will be doing a pregame show prior to kickoff. I'm thinking a 1 p.m. show on Sunday. I will don the gold jacket because I wore the gold jacket last week before the game, and that was enough to get us over the top. That was enough mojo. I moved the brick. You all know that the brick here, my brick, the brick is there. So we've got everything feng shui for the 49ers to win again. I will, in fact, be wearing the gold jacket. Come join me Sunday, 1 p.m. to get fired up before kickoff. 1 p.m. to kickoff, we're doing it. Back to Rick's comment. Kittle's back. In the press conference, he looked like he needs to hit somebody. Going to be a fun watch. Man, am I looking forward to George Kittle hitting somebody. George Kittle laying the pads into somebody on the Cardinals defense. Goodness gracious, give me a little bit of that, Rick. Give me a little bit of that. Kid Low bringing the mojo. I'm bringing out the Steve Young jersey for this game. We were 7-0 when I wear it, so I expect nothing less than a dub. Bring out whatever magical items you need for the remainder of this season, 49er faithful, because we are in the week-to-week mode where it's must win. Focus on this win. Kurt, I appreciate it, man. I did. Last night, I thought I was so clever coming up with the thumbnail for this live. I did the Star Wars theme, A New Hope. Chapter 4, A New Hope for the San Francisco 49ers, because I thought that's what that win gave to us, was a new hope. I think those of us faithful that stuck with this, who felt one way about this team in preseason, felt it was a talented roster, admitted there were faults, admitted that it was really painful to watch the inconsistency of this 49ers team so far this season, but felt that it was fixable in season, that it didn't require going to the well to get more talent, that this team had it. They just had to flip the switch somehow, turn it on. This victory gives us a taste of that, 49er faithful. I remain optimistic and steadfast. Charlie coming in. Now with Jeff Wilson Jr. and George Kittle, do you think the Niners are playoff contenders if they stay healthy? Charlie, I think it's a hell of a road to the playoffs. I am focusing 1 week at a time. Got to beat Arizona on Sunday to stay relevant. As of right now, yes, the 49ers are absolutely relevant. They are in the playoff hunt. Charlie, back in. Do you think adding OBJ to our roster is a big improvement in the wide receivers we already have? Just from a skill perspective, I don't think I answered this with OBJ, so I'm glad you brought it up, Charlie. Yes, I do think that he brings a level of talent that the 49ers do not currently have and a skill set that they may be missing. I thought that the 49ers receiver who best emulated OBJ was more of a Kendrick Bourne type of a player, someone who was clutch on third downs, someone who seemed to be able to catch the ball in tight windows, make acrobatic catches, to to get separation. Those are the traits I see in OBJ. You know, obviously Debo is the yak king, all about the yards after the catch. Brandon Ayuk, the jury's just still out. We thought we knew what we had after year one, and we were left with a lot of doubts early in this season. I think bringing in a veteran, if you can keep Odell Beckham Jr. in the correct headspace, he could be a great veteran presence on this team, much like Emmanuel Sanders was. Probably not as healthy of a guy to have in the locker room as Emmanuel Sanders. But yes, I think that there is something there that the 49ers could capitalize on it. Absolutely. Richard, I agree with you. Said it once. I'll say it again. You should not have to take into account the sun when you buy tickets. Yeah, Levi's. Frustrating that you took what was a plan to build a frickin' stadium in San Francisco, in the cold weather of San Francisco, and you applied it to Santa Clara. Jed, that was a fail on your part. A fail on your part. Kurt, I agree that I would be excited if the 49ers went after Odell Beckham Jr. I know the risks. I know that it is a possibility for him to do more damage than good, but man, I need something. I need a spark. Oh, look at this. We got a comment on Levi's. I love it. This is a good explanation, I think. Ramon coming in. Who was the architect and designer of Levi's Stadium? You would think they designed a stadium that would entice fans to be comfortable sitting everywhere in the stadium. This goes back to, it was literally a stadium drawn up to be in San Francisco when they were selling the city of San Francisco on building the stadium there. When they moved it to Santa Clara, they did not alter the stadium design. Hello? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I have a funny video on that if you want. Jed's masterclass on building a wildly successful stadium. It's a short 2-minute funny video of me doing an impersonation of Jed York that you can find on my channel. I think it's hilarious. Charlie coming in. Do you think the Niners will be good if we put Trey in on one drive and then Jimmy on the next? I don't. I stick to the idea of situational switches to Trey. I want the high success plays, the short down and distance, second and short, where there's an option and the threat of a run holds in check the defensive backs for the opposing defense, and goal line situations. You need to put him in where his abilities put greater stress on the opposing defense. And so I don't think it's great to go drive for drive. I get that would allow each of them to be in a rhythm for that drive, but I'm more concerned with having the flash plays that light a fire for the 49ers and give positive momentum for the rookie as well. All right, Mayor Art. I don't know if I'm following this one. I'm going to see. Jimmy will be a tormentor for any young new QB. Meaning that he's not a good mentor. He's been a good locker room presence in that he hasn't disrupted it. What has he done to advance Trey? Not much that I've seen to this point. AJB, I haven't watched OBJ since his one-handed catch. Is he still good? It's a valid question. It's a real valid question. At Rob Schuh from Jamie Bryant, I'm here more than Grant. You enjoy your enthusiasm and personality and answers to all of our questions. You're the true GOAT, man. I appreciate that, Jamie. And let me say, I do my regular show with Grant on Fridays. I welcome all of you to come over there. Even if you may not tend towards Grant's style of reporting and YouTube fandom, I think that I do a good job of keeping that dialogue pretty centered. I think that we're both very reasonable in our discussions, and we do tend to disagree on things. I come from an aspect of being a fan of the 49ers. He comes from a fairly neutral or maybe leaning the other way at times, taking some joy in our pain, right? And, if he's not a fan, he has every right to do so. But yes, I enjoy that show very much, but I'm glad you're here on my channel. That's a fact. Charlie coming in. Because we aren't winning games at Levi's, do you think the Niners are going to move in 2046 when the contract is up? Absolutely. I think they move that stadium a lot sooner than that. That's for sure. Harold agreeing. OBJ has not done much since that one-handed catch. All right. Pinor coming in, explaining his thoughts on the waste of time earlier. The reason why I think it's a waste of time is because he's going to sit, unless it's a Super Bowl contender with a competent QB. You think he's going to sit out. That could be. That could be. I don't know that he wouldn't like coming to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that they're still viewed as having some potential. Definitely not Super Bowl favorites or anything like that. By the way, just going to turn off the camera for just a second. Always got to keep a tissue on hand to make sure that I'm good to go. Camera ready. Always. But I appreciate you clarifying that, Pinor. And I think you're right. A lot of teams got to be really cognizant of that because he's not afraid to blow things up in a locker room. I just don't know that he would in San Francisco. I thought he expressed a willingness or a desire to play for Shanahan in the past. He may still feel that way, but I get it. If things go south, it's a really potentially cancerous individual to have in there. Charlie asking, do I think the Cards are a Super Bowl contender? I think they are in the aspect that, you know, it's a one and done playoff format. They have a wildly explosive offense, talent on the defensive side of the ball. So sure, I do. They're not one of my favorites. I still have my doubts about Cliff Kingsbury. I still have my doubts about Kyler Murray. In particular, his body language when things aren't going well. And things tighten up considerably in the playoffs. So it's fair to question whether you will see this loose Arizona Cardinals team that's throwing the ball all over the yard in the playoffs, or whether they would tighten up a little bit, whether they would lack that leadership from both their head coach and their quarterback, who seems to be the type to point to others' deficiencies before looking in the mirror. A bit more of an Aaron Rodgers style of personality to me. Maybe not as crazy as apparently Aaron Rodgers is, but that same look of disdain when someone else makes a mistake, that same look that when it could be either player's fault, it's clearly not Aaron Rodgers' fault, right? It's the freaking receiver's fault. That's the sense I get from Kyler Murray as well. A little more pouting than I like to see in my starting quarterback. It's what I love so much about the early signs of Trey Lance is his ability to stand up and just be the man in front of the camera, the man that's stoic on the sideline. I love that in a quarterback, and why Trey Lance to this point remains my hero, and I'm optimistic about the young fella. Our Mob Nation back in. Seahawks have the claim ahead of us. Yep, OBJ. Oh, I read that one earlier. Yeah, I think you're right on with that. AJB talking about that's what I thought in reference to Harold. Harold coming back in. Does everyone remember the fight between Josh Norman and OBJ? I didn't until you brought that up. But yes, in fact, how would those two players act if on the same team? Interesting. You'd like to think that they would get past it pretty quick, but you never know. It could be, I mean, it could be fun to watch, right? Could be fun to watch. All right, trying to catch up here. Trying to catch up for sure. Bebop Jones coming in. Levi's win. We need it. Yes, we do. Around Town Collective. Appreciate you coming in. Love watching your show, Rob. You're a natural. What's your background and got you into creating 49ers content? Have a great weekend. Go Niners. Appreciate it, Around Town Collective. As far as my ability to speak in front of people, I have a background of coaching up and leading sales leaders in Silicon Valley companies. So I have had the privilege of training directors and senior management and sales staff at companies like Solar City, Tesla, and some others to name a few. And I truly enjoy it. I just enjoy presenting information to people and find that I have a bit of a gift for it. I discovered this presenting Niners content, been a diehard Niner fan since the mid 80s. We moved from Massachusetts out to the Bay Area, lived in Palo Alto the entire time growing up from age 8 to 18. And so went to countless numbers of 49ers games with my dad and my brother and just became a fast Niner diehard. And then had the opportunity to join Grant on one of his live streams around the time of the draft and loved it. Frickin' loved it. Had to start up my own channel. Had to get this interaction going because I truly, truly enjoy it. Around Town Collective, I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate you being on here for sure. All right, Manikov back in here talking about Harold Murillo, similar to Richard Sherman being a Niner since Joe Staley. Did not forget Thanksgiving at Candlestick with Richard trash talking of the win. Yeah, there was that animosity between Joe and Richard, and they hashed it out. So I think Josh Norman and OBJ probably could. Mayor Art says no, save the cap space for the defense. Our offense with Trey and Trey will be just fine. I think that's a reasonable take there. I think that probably would sway me away from spending considerable money. If, as Nick pointed out earlier, it's still a $7.25 million cap hit, it was only lowered a little bit by the restructure, then yeah, I think I probably would opt for that money. Not to mention the fact that we have so few players signed for next season. Let's not forget that I think it sits at 31 players signed for 2022 and $8 million over the cap at that point. Now, once we cut Jimmy, we go from $8 million over the cap to, 16 under the cap. But $16 million to sign 20 players is not a great deal of money in the NFL. A lot of those minimum contracts are around $1 million if those players are established NFL vets. So that could be prudent. Mayor Art could be very prudent indeed. Charlie Nilo coming in. Have you seen all these games that are being played this week? Some of them are past Super Bowls. I haven't been checking out NFL Network if that is what you're looking at. Waruna coming in. What's going on, Waruna? How you doing, man? Richard Sherman hated the 49ers, but he did play well for us. Yeah, it's amazing when players get paid that they can put that hate behind them. They can put it right behind them. All right, Waruna saying, who's going to throw to OBJ? Jimmy? Are we going to get a new QB as well? I agree. It's a much better fit if you're going to transition over to the rookie. Same with Deshaun Jackson. Both are a much more natural fit if you're going to push the ball down the field. Nick pointing out that the Seahawks, who do have a claim ahead of the 49ers, unfortunately, have 13.3 cap space in remaining. 13.3 mil remaining in cap space is how I'm reading that from Nick. Nick, thank you for the reporting on the sideline. And that would seem to set up for the scenario I laid out. I think that the Seahawks look like a destination that could, you got Russell Wilson. You know he's a big enough personality to balance it out. It's hard not to see at least the Seahawks putting in a claim, if no one else ahead of them. All right, Pinor coming back in. Debo, OBJ, Ayuk, and Kittle sounds like a dominant arsenal, but we don't have the philosophy to feed each of them the way a Madden player would. Yeah, we do not have an air raid offense. We do not seem to have a prolific passing offense the way the Cardinals do, at least with a healthy Kyler Murray. So you wonder if he would get enough targets to be satiated, right? To be satiated. Paul Perryman pointing out, though, that Seattle already has a 1 and 2 wide receiver in Seattle, that he doubts it. I don't know. They do like to have that third option. Fingers crossed that they don't, though, Paul. Fingers crossed. Harold saying 49ers have Trey Lance. It's all up to Kyle. Yes, it is. George Garcia coming in. What's up, George? Why is Jimmy still on the team? He's a cancer. He's dividing the locker room. I don't know that I agree with that, George. I don't know that I've seen any evidence of him doing anything to divide the locker room. There's a natural divide that happens when you have two potential starting quarterbacks. That's for sure. But I don't know that Jimmy has been any way cancerous to the locker room or negative to the rookie. I feel that Jimmy's been about as good as you can expect a quarterback who gets his legs taken out from under him by the front office, for sure. Pinor pointing out, Kyle's just going to put OBJ in the doghouse, right? AJB coming in. Kyle John still trying to sign the next DeForest Buckner when they had DeForest Buckner. Shaking my head. Yeah, that's painful and will remain painful so long as we don't have a fix at the center of our defensive line. That's for sure. Waruna pointing out Trey's on the bench. He cannot throw to OBJ from there. It wouldn't count as a reception if he did. Zombie coming in. Zombie Burundango. Zombie says, do you think they can turn the season around? I believe, Zombie. I believe. Now, am I wagering on it? Am I expecting them to turn the season around? Well, turn the season around. Yes. Turn it around to the point of making the playoffs. I'm not wagering on that. I'm not setting my expectations there, but my hopes are right there. There's a clear path to making the playoffs that still exists for the San Francisco 49ers, but it's not an easy path. Let's be very honest with ourselves about that up front so that we're not terribly disappointed if things don't go the way that we hope they do. There are a lot of teams that we have to beat that are decent teams in the NFL. So I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion. But yes, I absolutely remain hopeful. I do. All right, Jamie Bryan back in. Yeah, Charles Omanehu Yeah, I'm going with Omanehu. Will free up Bosa to get to the QB faster. Warner, Bosa, Omenihu. Oh my goodness gracious. Yes, I think that that's an astute observation. He does give you flexibility. He can play outside and shift inside on later passing downs. The 49ers covet that flexibility along the defensive line, no question. Pinor pointing out Ayuk would be the Andy Isabella of the 49ers if we did get OBJ. I do think that there's room as long as you're throwing the ball enough. Absolutely. Nick, excited to see the next Kittle pancake. Bring on some pancakes. Nom, 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 nom. Indeed. Yes, the compliments on the thumbnail. I love it. If you haven't seen the thumbnail for this episode, make sure you check it out. I'm most proud. It's the thumbnail I'm most proud of in my freaking arsenal of thumbnails. That's for sure. All right, Manikov with a question here. This one may be creative. Rob, you need to purchase a Bradford voodoo doll and some needles so we can curse the Rams when we play them. Funny thing here in Portland, we have this place called Voodoo Donuts. And when the Portland Trailblazers make the playoffs, Voodoo Donuts make a opposing team themed voodoo doll. And you walk into the donut location and you get to place little pins, which are just pretzel sticks, into the frickin' doll and pierce the other team's voodoo doll. It's fantastic. I love doing it. It's, it plays into the superstition, everything. It's beautiful. We should get a Stafford voodoo doll, and we may need it. Zombie asks, if we lose Sunday, it's over? I think no, but it means you have to win one of the next two. Have to. If they lose the next two, I think it's over. So if you lose Sunday, now you have to beat the Rams, and that's a tall task. So that sort of sets up to how I feel about having to win on Sunday. I think you really would rather get the victory this Sunday and hope maybe you pull off a miracle against the Rams. All right, Lee Ving coming in. What's up, Lee? OBJ contract restructure makes him a half-season rental. Don't see how it's worth it. I agree. I don't know that it chopped off any of the years. I've not looked at the contracts of the new negotiated contract. My understanding was that it was done to ease up the dead money for Cleveland in some way, move it around, because I don't think you can clear any of that dead money. But I do think you can kick the can down the road, which is my understanding of what they did. I'll be interested to see the actual figures. I'll do a video breaking it down once I do. George pointing out, get rid of Jimmy so we can pay some players. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately. The 49ers can't do that until the offseason, though. His salary is guaranteed for the rest of the year. Even if you cut him at this point, you'd still have to pay him the remainder of his salary. Pinor coming in. Shout out to BD Peacock for saying Cooper Kupp is a rich man's Kendrick Bourne. All right, KB Toy Store. He's my favorite. Harold coming back in. I blame the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. This is for the stadium debacle. They are responsible for the 49ers leaving SF. It is freaking terrible. Terrible. Living points out, couldn't they have just put the freaking luxury boxes on the other side to block the sun? I think we'd still be looking. It's just you needed shade, and you're in the flight path for San Jose Airport, so you can't add on shade. It's the worst possible situation. Notorious GAV. What's good, Gavin? How you doing? Gavin says, I lost all hope when we started off looking like we are going to have another losing season. But I can't wait for the sequel. Yes, indeed. We've started a fresh season, it would appear, because there's some hope on the horizon. All right, Ramon coming in. I love your hello to my question. Greetings from New Zealand. New Zealand in the house. Raise the roof. Love your show. More power to you. Thank you. Thank you, Ramon, for joining us from New Zealand. I freaking love that. Leaving back in Grant and Jack film breakdowns are the best. Absolutely love that. Very insightful. I am a huge Jack Hammer fan. Had him on the channel multiple times. You can find those videos if you want. Leaving, taking a vape break. Got smoke them if you got them. Indeed. Paul back in. OBJ to the Niners. Not likely. Our problem is not a lack of pass catchers. It's getting them the ball. That's very true, Paul. We do have George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, Ross Dwelly, Mohamed Sanu. A lot of good pass catchers. We can't seem to get them the ball consistently. Ron Shipman coming in. No on OBJ, says Ron. Maybe 2019, but not this year. Not this year, he says. I mean, I can't fault you for it. If it gets ugly, you could see the locker room situation devolving in a way that would not be good for the San Francisco 49ers. Not helpful for this front office either. Yeah, good question, Lee. How many targets a game for OBJ on the Niners? 5, 6? Is that enough to keep him happy? I don't think so. He has not been happy unless he is being fed on a constant basis. Notorious Gav coming back in, GAV. Are people still calling out to fire Kyle when he has over 4 years left on his contract and will cost us north of $40 million to fire him? Yeah, people still calling for it. It may not be logical, but they don't mind spending Jed's money. They really do not. Let's see. Here we go. Richard talking back about the OBJ Josh Norman dynamic. OBJ and Josh Norman on the same team? I don't know. Who knows? Trent smacked Sherm upside the head once, and they got along last year. Yeah, these people can put their differences aside. They're grown men. They are grown men. Ron Shipman correctly predicts that Jimmy would probably throw some picks trying to throw to OBJ. If he tried to force it to him, yes, that would, in fact, be a negative. Pinor just saying Josh Norman's just going to get cut if OBJ is signed. That's how we afford him, is getting rid of that salary. I'm kidding. We can't get rid of a vested veteran's salary. It became guaranteed, I think. Oh, no, he wasn't on the team for week 1. We could cut Josh Norman and save some money, but I don't think they would. I think they'd force him to get along. Jay Mad in here, think for the first time, we need to take advantage of the Cardinals situation and kick them while they're down. Yeah, teams are kicking us while we're down, right? Teams absolutely have kicked us while they're down. Why can't we be the kickers? Why can't we kick some teams that are having some rough injury scenarios play out? Why can't we take advantage of that? Indeed. Notorious GAV. It's a hard pass on OBJ for me. What he costs about $7 million a year? Do we even have that much cap space? No. Short answer, we do not. We have $3.5 million in cap space. We would need to clear some contract cap space in order to get him in. And as I said earlier, the only two that jump out to me are Eric Armstead and Laken Tomlinson. And it doesn't seem as if the San Francisco 49ers want to extend Eric Armstead. I don't blame them. That's already a very backloaded contract. It doesn't seem like they want to renegotiate it. My apologies. They already extended him. And it doesn't seem that they want to extend Laken Tomlinson. Correct here from Nick at Gab. It's Jed's money. It doesn't have any effect on the team. For the coaches, it doesn't. There's no salary cap on coaches. That would just be 40 mil. Jed's got to eat. He finishes by saying, I think the shouting has died down a little. It has. I'm not seeing just fire Kyle and that type of thing at this point. One more loss and it'll be back. CG Ruthless, what's good, man? How you doing? All right, Zombie back in. So you got to see Niners champions and all the golden era. I did. I was fortunate enough. The 94 season, when my dad and I were going to games, was the first year that my brother went off to college. So my older brother, Bill Schuh, shout out Bill, went off to college, back to Jersey. He was a smart kid in the family. Went off to Princeton for college, and that left me and my dad to go to every single game in the 94 season. So I hit every single home game in the 94 season. I was at every home playoff game and loved that 94 championship season. I was able to witness the golden era. I was able to witness the transition from Montana to Young. Whew, yes. Positive memories, baby. Living the dream. But hey, we got hope on the horizon once again, don't we? CJ Ruthless coming back in. OBJ is too much drama. That's a hard pass for him. I can't say I blame anybody for that sentiment. Ken Fashion Journey coming in. Niners to all from Malaysia. What's up? Saying hello from Malaysia. I can remember that after the Browns lost to the Niners in 2019, OBJ asked Jimmy to come trade for him and get him out of the Browns. Hey, maybe he still holds on to that desire to be a part of the San Francisco 49ers, to play for Kyle Shanahan. I hope so. Notorious responding to Nick saying, you think Jed's going to stump up that much for firing Kyle, I can't see it. I agree. I don't think he's ponying up that much money to fire Kyle at this point. In my mind, the most obvious bad scenario for the 49ers if things go off the rails would be John Lynch firing. I think he would eat the salary of one of the two and then try to bring in a stronger GM that might be able to balance out Kyle's personality. All right, Ken saying Niners won't be looking at OBJ as we are 3-4 now. We are, but that 3-4 record puts us at an advantage in the waiver process. Harold asking what happened to Sherfield. I've not seen much of him lately. You have to think that the reemergence of Brandon Ayuk and the play of Mohamed Sanu has been responsible for it. But yeah, it was a weird storyline to think that Sherfield was really that elite based on what we saw in preseason. I was more optimistic than what we're seeing now, but you had to pump the brakes a little bit. Anytime you have that wild preseason success, it takes me back to Corey Sheets, right? 49ers fans that are old enough will remember calling out for, well, Corey Sheets has got to make the 53-man roster because he lights it up in preseason, but never able to put it together in the regular season. So when you're going against the 2s and the 3s of another team, it can make you look a little bit better than you are. The truth always comes out in the regular season. That's for sure. Rick saying that he doesn't think Metcalf and OBJ would work. And maybe that's true. Metcalf does seem to have quite the personality. George Garcia coming in. That's why you get rid of Jimmy G and put Trey Lance under center. I believe our offense would become 100% better than what it is right now with Trey under center. I got to say, I don't think Kyle Shanahan agrees. He clearly looks at that problem I posed earlier of offensive execution versus explosive plays, and he sees executing his offense as goal number one, that he's okay not having the explosive plays because he knows Jimmy's not bringing that. And yet he thinks that sticking with Jimmy is the way forward. So he must believe that the 49ers are better off doing well within his offensive scheme as opposed to making those plays outside of it. Ron coming in, do we package Jimmy and Kittle to maximize the trade? Unfortunately, no trades can occur after the trade deadline. It's not a weird, soft trade deadline like baseball. Rick talking about if the 49ers get OBJ, does that mean that Kyle's seat isn't hot? I do think it changes the narrative. You bring in a big name like that, it distracts the fan base, which is why I believe one of the earlier teams in the waiver claim process that doesn't have any chance and that may bring in a locker room cancer, someone who's unhappy being on a losing team. I think some of these teams might risk it just for the fanfare of bringing in OBJ, just for the excitement. Nick coming in, maybe OBJ to Seahawks won't be a bad thing. Stir up their locker room, especially if they have some divas in there. Hey, I'll take anything that brings down the frickin' Seahawks, that's for sure. Leaving coming in at Rob Schuh. Jimmy's not a Cancer. He's a Scorpio. Well played, Leaving. Well played. That's Ted Lasso level pun right there. Joke. I mean, very good. Very well done. Nick coming in, talking to Gav. I don't think it's money. I just don't think he will fire him anyway. EMA Beats back in. Peace out. No, peace in. He's in. How do you feel about getting Armstead being moved back to the middle? Could it be a similar pressure like Javon? He does play better inside. Yeah, I think that the increased flexibility that the new acquisition gives us is a positive. I just worry that we're having trouble stopping the run, and that's my primary concern right now with our D-line is do we have enough heavy bodies in the middle? I would have been a little more contented with trading for a journeyman defensive tackle that could help stuff the run as opposed to the edge help that we got with Omanahu. Although he does have the flexibility. He's a tweener, 6'4", 280, I believe is his size. So he plays outside on early rundowns and then can shift inside, much like Armstead on those primary passing downs on third down. So he does give flexibility. Hopefully that would allow Armstead to play more at the position he is more comfortable at and generates greater pressure and greater sack numbers. So I'm with you that anything that gets Armstead rushing from the interior on those pass rushing downs is a positive for this defense. Notorious calling out, we need to start beating people in our division. No question. That's why this Sunday's matchup is so important. So damn important. AJB calling out, we need another Jed masterclass. We do need a Jed impersonation. It's one of my favorites to do. I don't even know if the voice is anything like Jed's. It was just the first thing that came to me. And then I did the scene with my head off camera, just a little bit of a beer gut in costume, rubbing the belly. I found it to be highly amusing. I hope some of you did as well. Go check it out. Jed York's masterclass, my attempt at humor. Some of my earlier videos were all about multiple characters and my weird and twisted sense of humor. You may remember our previous sponsor, Folgers Instant Coffee Crystals. Yeah, it's trash. Folgers Instant Coffee Crystals, the flavor of sweat socks. Paul Perryman coming in. Jimmy seems to play well when when he is super passionate and confident, like he was in Chicago playing in front of 100 family and friends. Continuing on, hate that it takes him playing at Soldier Field in front of those family and friends against a mediocre team to show it. Yeah, I wonder if he'll be able to carry that positive momentum into the game this week. It seemed to make a hell of a difference in his confidence and his ability to execute. Let's see. Let's see if we see another couple rushing touchdowns for Jimmy. Chris Baker coming in. What's up, Chris? What player do you think will have a high impact the remainder of the season? I hope it's George Kittle. I feel like George Kittle came in fired up for this season. He was different in the pressers. He was standoffish because I think he had something to prove. I think he wanted to come out and display the same physical dominance that fans had come to expect from him and that we didn't get last year. And there were questions about George in the offseason. And there were fans that began doubting him. The people's tight end being doubted by the people. That's rough. I think it hurt him. And I think you saw it in the pressers, in the way he responded to questions, especially any questions he perceived to be snarky. Anything coming from Grant Cohn, he responded in a way that was standoffish. And not just with Grant, with anyone that asked a question that could be considered a criticism, a critique of his. I hope that he bounces back and is able to answer some of those questions. Absolutely. Absolutely, George Kittle. Zombie coming in saying LOA. They should LOL. They should make a t-shirt. I don't mind spending Jed's money. Indeed, I'd like to spend Jed's money. Harold pointing out winning cures it all. It cures everything. Yes, winning this week, winning last week brought us all back. Winning this week would be a cherry on top. Unbelievable. Ramon coming in, that 94 season was the best for me. I'm a big Deion Sanders fan. I was a huge Deion Sanders fan in 94, and then he left us, and I felt abandoned. And I had a Jerry Rice 101 touchdown shirt that was my favorite 49ers t-shirt. It was a picture of Jerry Rice catching his 101st touchdown at Candlestick Park, the 101 special, my favorite shirt. And then I wrote F Deion, but not F. I spelled out the entirety of it in some puffy paint that allowed me to write on the t-shirt because I was pissed. I hated him for leaving us. And it took me years because I like Deion's personality. He's freaking fun to watch. It took me years to get over it. Freaking years. That was a heartbreaker for me. And you could honestly say that it was, losing Charles Haley that may have been the bigger piece, because if they had been able to continue sacking fools, it may not have been as big of a loss to lose Deion. But Deion and Charles, yeah, that was tough to lose them both. That was painful. Paul Perryman coming in. When Lance started at Arizona, he was missing several offensive weapons. Jimmy has them all back. And no Watt, no Murray. I feel like this is a must-win for Jimmy. What are your thoughts? Agree, Paul. A must-win for the 49ers. A loss sets up a very, very dark path. The 49ers, in my belief, need to win 10 games to be relevant for the playoff hunt. They are 3-4. That means there are 10 games remaining, and the 49ers must win 7 of them. So we must go 7-3 down the stretch. And there are some very tough teams still on the schedule. 2 games against the Rams. Play the Seahawks. You know that's going to be tight. The Bengals are not a bad team. The Titans should have Derrick Henry back by that point. It's on the road. Christmas game. Christmas Eve. It's tough. This, to me, is as close to a must-win as you can get at this point in the season. Nick, asking, what's happened to Hurd, man? Is he now out for the season? Not heard anything. Excuse the pun. It was a good pun. Yeah, that's sad for me, man. I never like to see a player losing time to injury. I struggle not to look at it from the human element, not to look at it from what Jalen Hurd must be going through. Yeah, it's easy to make some jokes. It's easy for me to take a shot. And I'm not saying Nick is not taking a shot here in my mind. That's a good pun. But there are fans that are. There are fans that, you go back to Jimmy Ward, Hospital Ward, right? I get it. It's easy to poke at those players that are struggling. But for me, if it's not you struggling on the field because of poor play, if it's health related, I can't pile on with that. So I just feel for the young gentleman. I haven't heard anything, and it doesn't look like there's any news, which would lead you to believe that he's probably done for the season. His practice window needs to open up by some point in, I believe, the end of November. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. But if it doesn't open up in the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think that you have to shut him down. And since we have zero news about it at this point, no prediction that we will open the window, I would lean toward seizing that you would, in fact, not see Jalen Hurd again, which is tough. Ron clarifying that he meant that trade after the season. Yeah, you could see that. I think you're probably looking at a scenario, unless Jimmy really rebounds in trading away Jimmy, I think the Niners probably end up cutting him. That would be my guess. Gerson coming in. What's up, Rob? He says, writing to you from Miami. What's up? I was in Miami. I had a great time in Miami other than the outcome of that game. I visited the Padron Cigar Company there. I got my humidor right back here. Love me some Padron cigars. I smoked a whole handful of those family reserves while I was there. Picked up a couple of special cases to bring back with me here to Portland. I loved the food in Miami. My cousin lives out there, works for one of those bling shops where they sell the Super Bowl rings. I mean, he just stupid jewelry they put out there. And he gave me the insight of all the places to hit. Such good food scene there in Miami. Credit, Gerson. I hope you're eating delicious food on a regular basis, because that was my impression of Miami. Good stogies, good food. I'm in. I want to go back. I'm going back to Miami. I'm checking off all the NFL stadiums. And while I was there in Miami for the Super Bowl, I'm going back when they play the Dolphins, because I need to be there when they play the home team, just to, write it off that way. And because I love the food. The salty donut play, I think it was called the salty donut or the salty dog or something. Delicious frickin' donuts. Everything but the end of that game was spectacular. Back to Gerson's comment. What's up, Rob? Writing to you from Miami. What's your stat line for Jimmy this weekend against the Birds? I predicted earlier on Grant's channel that we see good Jimmy, and I define good Jimmy as a 2-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio. So I think that we're looking at something where you're limiting Jimmy to probably 25 attempts, plus or minus a few. You're attempting to run the ball first and foremost. Elijah Mitchell probably gets 18 carries. Few carries spread around for other backs on the team. You're trying to limit Jimmy's passing attempts and keep this a close game that's not in Jimmy's hands. So I'm going to go 17 for 25, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. I'm going to put him right at that 2-to-1 ratio, because he just, I don't think Jimmy goes 2 games without a turnover. Hate to say that. Francisco coming in at Rob. Could it be that maybe Kyle just doesn't know how to make plays for an explosive QB like Trey? I don't know. He did a good job dialing up plays and putting putting RG3, Robert Griffin III, in a position to be successful. You could make a powerful argument that he didn't develop RG3. RG3 came in as an incredible weapon. Maybe he developed in his first preseason, but his first year was his best year. You could blame the knee injury, and I probably would in a more thorough breakdown of Robert Griffin III's career trajectory. But I also don't think that you can point to Kyle Shanahan's influence and say that he developed him, but he certainly did put him in a position to be successful his rookie season. So he's shown some ability there, but it's fair to ask if it's possible until he does it with Trey. Another pun coming in about Jalen Hurd from Gavin. I like it, but I don't want to pick on the guy too much. J-Mad coming in. If Debo breaks Jerry Rice's 49ers single season receiving record, how much money do you think he'll ask for in his upcoming contract? A frickin' Brinks truck worth. I would. Wouldn't you? I mean, your second contract in the league is such a big contract if you outperform your rookie deal. This is when, he's got the cars. I'm a car dude myself. I freaking love cars. Got a few beautiful rides myself. But Debo has some freaking automobiles. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the BMW. I think it's the i8 that I've seen in some of his Instagram photos, but he clearly has a sense of style when it comes to cars, and you need that coin in order to get that car collection up. So yeah, I think both Debo and Bosa take the 49ers to the freaking bank, because I think both are a bit more committed to their own brand than to the 49ers brand, and I do not blame them. As entrepreneurs, as businessmen, I do not blame them for that allegiance to the money. To the money. Zombieland coming in late to the show. That's okay. We blew it with Solomon Thomas because he's thriving with the Raiders. It's an instance of giving up on a guy a little too early, but good for him. And I think you could argue he maybe wouldn't have that breakout here because there would be the same negativity, the same stuff he would have to fight through if, in fact, he had stayed with the 49ers for one more contract. Nick coming back in. Yep, could be the same for Kinlaw with his knee. Such a shame, really. We're talking there about Jalen Hurd, I think, and yes, the injury he's fighting through. You hope that Kyle's right, that this was the surgery. This was the surgery that cleared it all up for our man, Javon Kinlaw. Because, God, you need him to eat up bodies in the middle. To be stout against the run. You need a body like that, and it just is that much more painful to have given up DeForest Buckner when the guy you took with the pick you got back doesn't play for you. So, yes, fingers crossed that it turns around for Kinlaw after the surgery. Notorious GAV, Rob's Jed York Masterclass is pure genius. Why, thank you, Notorious GAV. One of my earlier supporters when it came to the off-brand humor that I have, the strange humor that I have. Yes, it takes a certain taste to appreciate Rob Schuh's odd nature. That's for sure. That's done so. Yeah, Notorious Gav points out too that at least with Kinlaw, you've had something. For Hurd, it's just been nothing, and that's real painful. Francisco Montano coming in at Rob. We should start a GoFundMe for Jimmy's friends and fams for the Rams game. Let's get some money together. Let's fly everybody out from Chicago, because it seemed to be the recipe for success for Jimmy. Getting those friends, we need the friends and family discount plan. Can we get a group rate, Southwest? Please, if we're flying 100 people, can we charter a flight? Great idea, Francisco. Great frickin' idea. Notorious GAV, a big juice fanatic, comes in and says, do we need another big game from Juszczyk against the Cards? I think we do. I think we always need a good game from the Juice. Yes, we do. And Nick agrees. Yes, we do. Harold is with me. Hope the surgery fixes Kinlaw's knee. At least Kinlaw has put a 100%. You cannot deny his efforts. Yeah, it does seem that he is putting it all out there. There have been some interesting posts from him on Instagram that, yeah, they're hard to diagnose and understand where his head's at, but it's easy to see why he might be a little conflicted with the treatment he's gotten so far, people being frustrated with him. Harold with me on the fact that Dion was a traitor for leaving. I felt betrayed. I felt bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray. I felt betrayed. It wasn't fair. Wasn't fair. Richard pointing out, it wasn't just that Dion left. It was he left to the Cowboys and won another chip with them. Nobody more hated. My wife is a little younger than I am and does not understand my disdain for the Dallas Cowboys. She's like, why is that such a rival? The 1990s. That's why I hate the Dallas Cowboys. And anyone who was there understands it. Understand it. All right, Zombieland's coming in. Jimmy G can't hit the slots and or the flats. Ouch. Ouch. Zombieland coming in again with Kittle back. Jimmy G needs to hit the slots, but he still can't hit the flats. He's got to complete the gimme passes, no question. The middle of the field is where Jimmy feasts. Harold pointing out that, yes, Debo on track for a potential MVP season, certainly the MVP of the San Francisco 49ers. Zombieland throwing out the 1972 Ford Pinto with fuzzy dice. Is that the type of vehicle that we should all aspire to drive? Is that the type of vehicle Jimmy plays like or drives? I don't know. He's wealthy. I think he's got a better ride than a 72 Ford Pinto. But when you throw in the fuzzy dice, that's a badass ride. Harold saying, yes, Jed York better cough up the money. That's all he's good for. Absolutely. Zombieland pointing out we played Thomas incorrectly. Imagine playing Bosa inside. We do move him around a little bit. But yeah, I get what you mean on Solomon Thomas. Definitely misused a bit. And injuries forced him into the position that he had to play something that wasn't freaking ideal for him. Ron, I got to throw this up because I saw it even though I'm flashing forward to get to it. GoFundMe for Jimmy. He has $100 million in the bank. LOL. Let that man fly his own friends and family out for the game. Indeed, that is fair. Okay, Paul Perryman. Based on last week, Shanny should have Trey warming up at the first sign of Jimmy being Jimmy every week. I don't know what I believe about that, him warming up versus the two of them warming up together. Certainly there was an outburst on the sideline. That was well captured. I do think Jimmy needs to feel the heat. Jimmy's got to come out with a fire like he did against Chicago. And if he doesn't, man, the 49ers could be in trouble. 49er minded. What's up? I like Kinlaw when he's playing, but damn, his knee issues are killing me. Yep, they really are. And I'm sure that they're devastating to him as well. No question. All right, looking for some good comments to close out on. We are wrapping down towards the end of the show. Here we go. 49er Minded taking us back to the 94 offseason. I think that this is a good insight on it. Not what we'll end on, but I like the topic. 49er Minded, Deion Sanders and Ricky Watters. Running Waters. Leaving in the same year were huge blows to me, but I learned that it's a business. I no longer get crazy mad about players leaving like I used to. Me too. I was 15, around there. 15 or 16 when all that transpired in 95 after the 94 season. And yeah, I took that pretty personally. I don't anymore. I get the fact that players need to make their money. This is their career. This is their livelihood. Go get your cash. That is first and foremost. NFL is a business. Good. You should be a business person as well. I'm a diehard faithful. If you're no longer on the Niners, I'm probably not going to root for you much anymore, but I respect the fact that you should go and get paid. Nick correctly pointing out, basically, you have to be over 40 to understand the Dallas rivalry. That is true, my friend. That is very, very true. EMA Beats pointing out that it's the Niners' own fault for Javon. It's 49ers management's fault. Javon came in with those issues. That's the worst part of the Kinlaw calamity. It does seem that some NFL teams took him off the board because of the knee issues. Let's just hope that he gets it right after this surgery. Richard coming in, slightly older fans. No harm in being older. I'm older. Slightly older fans will remember the pain it was like to watch Steve Young and the Niners get stopped by Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys twice. Ugh. Thank God social media didn't exist then. Right, Richard? Oh my, if you think this has been dark, if you think 49ers Twitter has lost its mind now, imagine those rivalries against the Cowboys, not being able to get over the hump against the Packers with Favre. The Niners would have gotten murdered on social media back then. Absolutely murdered. And those were elite teams. Paul coming in saying, after the win last week, did you see the footage of the tunnel where the Niners walked in? Jed and John York were greeting everyone, and John gave Jimmy G a big ol' hug. shook hands, just found it interesting. I did see that, and I also found that to be interesting. I thought that was a good dynamic. He did put his arm around him. Yeah, I respect John York. I met him when my wife and I flew out to the season opener against Minnesota in 2018. He came out into the stands, was giving out pins to fans, shaking hands, taking photos. I respect John York. He was not a great owner, but he knew enough to step back, hand over the reins to Jed, who has done a moderately better job, although he has significant shortcomings himself. But I respect the role he's taken on. So yeah, hats off to him. And I do think that it's appropriate to put your arm around a guy when he comes off a game like that. Absolutely. Manikov coming in. How can Jimmy come on fire when the Bears gave him no pressure? With the Cards, he will be pressured. I think that is true. He did not, other than the 2 runs, he did not get the uniform dirty. It was all about staying on his feet. Little pressure. You would think that will not be the case against Arizona. That is a top 3 defense in the league. Absolutely. All right. Yes, many people reliving the Dallas rivalry that we had. Many of them. Absolutely. We're getting down to the end here. We're going to wrap this up real soon. Paul coming in one last time. This is a game the D should be looking to have some turnovers. What do you think? I'm saying at least 2. Great show, bro. Appreciate it, Paul. I think it's necessary. I predicted Jimmy will have 1 turnover. I think if we want to win this, we got to win the turnover matchup, the turnover differential. So I am with you, Paul. I think we got to poke that ball out. We need some peanut punches. We need Josh Norman to continue doing what Josh Norman does. And let's get a turnover for the man, the myth, the legend, all-pro Fred. Let's get Fred Warner an interception. I mean, obviously, Fred needs to get himself an interception. But that's all it's missing from this season for him so far. It's been solid, statistically speaking, but no big plays, no turnovers, no sacks, no interceptions, no forced fumbles, no fumble recoveries. Let's get Fred going. Indeed. Zombieland coming in. I remember the days going to Candlestick, and the Carnation chocolate ice cream cups were the most interesting thing going on. Those wooden spoons with the Carnation malted milk treats. Yes, I remember that from my childhood with fondness. My favorite food item from the stick was the Polish sausages. The frickin' Polish that they did at the stick with the guidons, brown mustard that they offered. So good. It was a spicy encased sausage. The brown mustard, the deli mustard complemented it so perfectly. The buns were steamed. It was, man, I can taste it as I relive those Polish sausages at Candlestick Park. Fantastic. I've yet to find a delicious treat at Levi's that I have as positive an outlook on. If you know the best eats at Levi's Stadium, let me know, because the jury's still out for me. Still out. Harold coming in. Yeah, 49ers, Cowboys in the 70s. Huge history between the two teams. Absolutely. Harold talking about now I need some Mitchell's ice cream. Yes, indeed. 49er minded. Damn, just now hearing about Mitchell's. Damn it. Richard with the compliment. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Great show, Rob. YouTube, get that super chat up. Thank you, Richard. Yes. Hey, if you want to help me out, if you love the content, like the video, if you enjoy it, subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely free to do so, and I greatly appreciate it. Nick, thank you, man. Great show. As always, hopefully see you on Sunday. Yes, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Look for a pregame show here on my channel. Zombieland, love this prediction. Kittle's going to be on fire. His energy will motivate this team in all circumstances. Damn it, that fires me up, Zombieland. That fires me up. You want to fire me up some more? Ron comes in and says, Fred, pick 6. Fred, pick 6. Let's go, Fred. All pro Fred. Yes, indeed. Harold giving the shout out to all the 49ers fans. EMA Beats asking for those likes. I appreciate that, my friend. Niner Empire. Get that excitement going. Absolutely. Ron pointing out Fred's not great at blitzing. He hasn't been put in a great situation to be successful either. You heard D'Amico Ryans talk about that Fred would have more opportunities to blitz this year. Potentially, Ron's right that it's just not within Fred's skill set. I think he hasn't been put in a position to be successful yet. Another shout out from New Zealand. Ramon, thank you. Yeah, Manikov, both Candlestick, SF, and Qualcomm in San Diego demolished. I got a couple of pieces of Candlestick out in my backyard. Got 2 of those seats sitting out there. That was the only, that warning you get from California products that says this warning, this product may cause cancer. When the frickin' seats arrived from Candlestick Park and the chunks of lead and rust were falling off of it, I saw that cancer warning and I thought to myself, yeah, this is one of those instances where that cancer warning is probably right. If I eat one of these paint chips, I probably will get cancer. So therefore, it couldn't stay inside in my man cave. I decided those seats needed to be outside. They were outside for years at Candlestick. They'll be fine outside now. That's for sure. All right, Mike Mosley coming in. I'm going to throw it up there. The first year that Young took over for Joe, he was inaccurate and high, similar to Trey. Takes time to get your receivers locked down and your play as well. Trey needs that chance. Preach it, Mike. Preach it. Yes, he does. Harold, 49ers worldwide. 49er minded. If the shoe fits, wear it. Indeed. Harold, I love having this channel, so thank you for being here on it. Holy Paul, I once snuck a 12-pack in my waistband at Candlestick. The memories. I actually snuck a couple of flasks and large items in as well. It was a lot easier back then, wasn't it? Before security tightened up. But a 12-pack, Paul? That's impressive. I mean, I think you deserve a round of applause from all 49er faithful for managing to smuggle in a frickin' 12-pack. Indeed. Thank you, 49er Minded. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lee Ving. I appreciate all of you. Adam Power missed the show today. Super late. That's okay. You can still rewatch it. Ready for Sunday. Hope we get good Jimmy. Go Niners. Yes, indeed. Mike pointing out, with the injuries in the secondary, it's true. Fred does not blitz as he has to stay back due to our secondary. That's a really great call out there, that maybe the plan was to allow him to blitz more, but injuries have not allowed it. Jason Walsh, yes, that stadium was our foundation. Kezar Stadium's great. I love history, but Candlestick is where it's at. 49er minded, same thing, calling out, need Warner in coverage, so he barely gets to blitz him. All right, EMA coming in. At Rob Schuh, did you hear what George attributed his injuries to? We know he's pro Jimmy, but could that have been an unintentional exploitive comment toward Jimmy? I didn't hear that. I'll go back and rewatch it, but what I'm gathering from your statement here is that he may have indicated that some of the errant throws led to the injuries. And that's true. There were some hospital balls. There were some high balls that allowed him to then get hit low on his legs, and that led to what we're seeing there. It would be a hell of a call out, although Trey's missed high too. So, maybe it's just a statement about the inaccuracy of quarterbacks to this point. Manikov thinking that not only should I be mayor of Portland, but potentially I should own the 49ers and not the Yorks. If I had that kind of money, it'd be the first thing I frickin' bought. The absolute first thing I bought would be the San Francisco 49ers if I had enough billions to lock it down. Yes, 49er Minded is with me. Serious applause for smuggling in a frickin' 12-pack at the stick. That's legit. Here we go. Wait, Harold. The trick was making friends with security. Then you had a chance to sneak anything you wanted in. Yeah, that still remains true to this day, although probably fewer people willing to risk their jobs with how serious they take security. But back at the stick, it was different. It was different. Adam Power will never forget the pick at the stick. Navarro Bowman. I thought for a sec I had my Navarro jersey on. No, I got the Kittle going on. I did miss that one, but I had been at the stick the week prior on that last season. So I was there for the farewell season, was there for those playoffs as well. Playoffs? Mike Mosley. First time to ever see Candlestick was from some bar in SF while I was getting out of the service back in 82. Mike, love the history. Love it. Zombieland saying Bosa can't over-penetrate, needs to contain the outside and be patient. Yes, although with Colt McCoy back there, it wouldn't be quite as much of an issue because he's not going to move the launch point in the way that Kyler Murray would. Bryant Culp coming in. What's up, Bryant? I like Kezar. I kicked a field goal on that field. Man, did you make it? I'm guessing you did or you wouldn't be sharing it. Nice work, Bryant. Love it. Tommy, what's good, buddy? Shooby-doo. As if I didn't hear that one a couple of times back in college when those Penguins came out for the Budweiser commercials. Shooby-dooby-doo. Paul Perryman, you think if Kittle caught that ball from Trey over the middle, he is still starting? I don't know. Maybe. If Trey had won that game and not gotten injured, I think it's fair to ask that question. Brian Culp saying the original 49ers team were firefighters. I had no idea. I'm going to need to look up that frickin' history. Absolutely. 49ers should win. Very clever. Very clever indeed. Manikoff sharing the memories. Brian Culp. I practiced track at Kezar in the 70s. Love it. Ellis 10 in the house. What's up, Rob? I got in late. No worries, Ellis. You're here now, and that's what matters. Go Niners. Can we beat the Cardinals if we can contain Kyler Murray? I said earlier, I think Kyler's out. I think we can contain Colt McCoy. I think the Niners do win. Absolutely. Manikoff wanting to know, where's your John Brody jersey? The furthest I go back is my 1998 Jerry Rice jersey that my brother Bill gave me for Christmas in 98 or maybe 90. Yeah, I guess I would have been in 98. And I still have that, still in great condition. I still love to wear it. No question. No question. A little history for 49er faithful. 49ers are the first California pro sports franchise. Is that true? Isn't it 1946 for the San Francisco 49ers? That's an interesting fact. I want to confirm that. I really do. Mike coming back in my first job, I was shown around the bay by a good friend of mine who showed me Kezar. Was so cool. Felipe just getting here. We're just wrapping up, Felipe, but you can go back and watch this thing on the channel. It was a good show. It was a good show. What's the latest on Debo's calf? Gerson says he seems very probable in my book, but officially listed as doubtful. I think it is still the calf contusion, which is otherwise known as a bruise. I hope it's not a strain. I believe this goes back 2 weeks for Debo. He did say he was feeling worse this week than last week, but it still seemed to be messaging that sent me the impression that he will play this week. That he will play this week. And we need him to play. We need everybody on the field. This is as close as you can get to a must-win game for the San Francisco 49ers. I appreciate you guys sticking with me on a nice, long, 2-hour session here, just chatting Niners. I can't think of a better way to spend my Friday afternoon. I love the fact that you guys come in here chopping it up with me. If you missed the stream, feel free to go back and watch it. I will be on Sunday at 1 p.m. doing a pregame pump-up. Please subscribe and set that little reminder so you can come in on the bell because I will need your energy to be here. I need your positivity. I need your questions. I need your shared faith about the San Francisco 49ers. If you're going to the game, get in early, do your tailgating beforehand, sit in those stands, get loud as all get out, and enjoy the hell out of what should be a 49ers victory on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you for joining me today. I will see you all again soon. Until then, cheers, faithful.